Breath, the New Science of a Lost Art by James Nestor. Picture this. You're volunteering for a science experiment where they seal your nostrils shut with silicone plugs. For 10 straight days, every breath while eating, sleeping, working out has to squeeze through your mouth alone. Sounds like torture, right? Well, that's exactly what author James Nestor and Swedish breathing therapist Anders Olsson signed up for at Stanford University. And things went south fast. Within hours, their blood pressure shot through the roof. Their heart rate variability tanked. Screaming stress. They started snoring like freight trains, something neither had ever done before. And both developed sleep apnea for the first time in their lives, literally choking on themselves hundreds of times each night. They felt wired, exhausted, and like their brains were wrapped in fog, all from simply switching which hole they breathed through. This wild experiment is the beating heart of one of the most mind-blowing books I've encountered, Breath, the New Science of a Lost Art. We're talking millions of copies sold, translated into dozens of languages, and a complete paradigm shift in how we understand our most automatic function. Nestor, who's a journalist, not a doctor, spent a decade chasing down one nagging question: why are modern humans absolutely terrible at breathing? We're the only species on the planet cursed with chronically crooked teeth, sleep apnea, asthma, and a laundry list of respiratory problems our ancient ancestors never dealt with. What he uncovered is that we've completely forgotten a foundational pillar of health. We've lost an art that ancient cultures, from Indian yogis to Native American tribes, understood intimately. An art that cutting-edge science is only now rediscovering and confirming. Today, I'm taking you through this incredible journey. And I promise, by the end, you won't just get why that bonkers Stanford experiment mattered. You'll realize that how you're breathing right this second is sculpting your health, your mental state, and your entire life in ways you never imagined. You'll discover the secret of the perfect breath, a rhythm that ancient prayers and modern research both point to as the key to bringing your body into complete harmony. This is the story of a lost art, and why rediscovering it might be the single most important thing you do for yourself. Our journey starts with a problem. James Nestor was pretty much a mess. Recurring pneumonia, weak lungs, and a mind constantly buzzing with stress. His doctor, almost out of ideas, suggested he try breathing class. He ended up in this run-down Victorian house, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a random group of people, learning an ancient technique called Sudarshan Kriya. For the first 20 minutes, absolutely nothing. He was annoyed, bored, ready to bail. Then, something clicked. He didn't even notice it happening, but when the session wrapped and he opened his eyes, he was soaked. Like just finished a marathon soaked. The room was cool, but he'd sweated through everything. Over the next few days, this deep calm washed over him. He slept like he hadn't in years. That constant knot in his shoulders? Gone. How could just breathing in a certain pattern for an hour trigger such a massive shift? That question launched a 10-year investigation. Nestor ventured way beyond traditional medical circles. He dove with freedivers who could hold their breath for over 8 minutes, plunging to depths scientists thought would kill a human. When he asked their secret, they all said the same thing. It's not about special lungs. It's about mastering breath itself. They told him, breathing affects everything from your weight to your immune system, from mental clarity to how long you live. This idea that breathing was medicine seemed radical. Modern medicine treats breathing like it's binary. You're either doing it or you're not. Your doctor checks your vitals but almost never asks how you breathe. Yet ancient cultures were obsessed with it. Chinese Taoism, Hindu texts, Buddhist traditions, all packed with detailed instructions on regulating breath to heal the body and reach higher consciousness. How could something be so central to our ancestors and so invisible to us now? This brings us back to that Stanford experiment. Nestor realized that to understand proper breathing, he first had to understand the damage from improper breathing. And the biggest culprit in the modern world? Mouth breathing. About half of us are chronic mouth breathers. Stress, pollution, allergies all contribute, but much of the blame lies with a startling change in the human skull. Nestor met with Dr. Mariana Evans, an orthodontist studying hundreds of skulls, both ancient and modern. The ancient skulls painted a clear picture. Wide jaws, forward facial structures, perfectly straight teeth despite never seeing a dentist. Their nasal passages were massive. These people physically couldn't have snored or had sleep apnea. Their airways were too open. Modern skulls? Complete opposite. Recessed jaws, smaller mouths, crooked teeth everywhere. Of the 400 mammal species on Earth, humans are the only ones routinely suffering from misaligned teeth. So what happened? The story begins around 800,000 years ago when our ancestors mastered fire. Cooking made food softer and released more calories. Huge evolutionary advantage. It saved energy from chewing and digesting, which we funneled into growing bigger brains. But there was a catch. As our brains expanded, our faces had to adapt. Over hundreds of thousands of years, our mouths shrank, jaws weakened, airways tightened. The same innovations that made us smarter also made breathing harder. This was a slow burn, but manageable. The real disaster happened recently with the Industrial Revolution. We started eating processed foods, soft, mushy, sugary stuff. White flour, canned vegetables, jams, foods requiring almost no chewing. Our ancient ancestors chewed for hours daily. This constant jaw workout stimulated bone growth, ensuring their mouths and airways stayed wide and strong. Without that stress, our faces began collapsing inward. This is why so many of us have crooked teeth, stuffed noses, and blocked airways. One Harvard biologist calls it disevolution. We're adopting traits that harm us. We've engineered chewing out of our lives, and our breathing has paid the price. This circles back to Nestor and Olson, with plug noses at Stanford. They were living the reality of modern facial structure in fast forward. Their experiment proved how quickly mouth breathing wrecks the body. The moment they removed the plugs, everything reversed. Blood pressure normalized, stress hormones dropped, snoring and sleep apnea vanished completely. They healed themselves simply by returning to how we're designed to breathe, through the nose. This is the book's first crucial lesson: close your mouth. The nose is miraculous, designed for way more than smelling. It cleans, heats, and moistens air, making it easier for lungs to absorb. But there's more. The sinuses release a massive boost of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is essential for circulation and oxygen delivery to cells. It affects immune function, weight, mood, even sexual function. Nasal breathing can boost nitric oxide levels 6 times, which is why we absorb about 18% more oxygen through our noses than our mouths. Nestor even found doctors recommending patients tape their mouths shut at night. Sounds weird, but for people plagued by snoring and congestion, it's transformative. He tried it himself. After 3 nights with a tiny piece of tape over his lips, his snoring dropped from hours to just 10 minutes. Sleep apnea? Gone. Nasal breathing is the foundation. But it's just the start. The next lost art Nestor uncovered was about breathing pace. We've become overbreathers. Most of us inhale far more air than our bodies need. You'd think big, deep breaths are healthy, but science says otherwise. One of breathing's great paradoxes, the key to health and endurance, is breathing slow and breathing less. To understand this, we need to talk about a gas we've been taught to fear, carbon dioxide. We think of it as waste, something to expel quickly, but carbon dioxide is the secret conductor of our respiratory system. Imagine your blood cells as cruise ships loaded with oxygen passengers. When these ships arrive at your muscles and organs, they need a signal to let the oxygen off. That signal? Carbon dioxide. Without enough carbon dioxide in your blood, oxygen stays locked onto hemoglobin in your red blood cells. It's called the Bohr effect. When we overbreathe, fast, shallow breaths, we blow off too much carbon dioxide. Our blood gets saturated with oxygen, but that oxygen can't reach the cells that need it. We're literally starving ourselves of oxygen by breathing too much. So what's the perfect breath? Through his research, Nestor found remarkable overlap between ancient spiritual practices and modern science. When Buddhist monks chant Om Mani Padme Hum, each phrase lasts about 6 seconds, followed by a 6-second inhale. Catholic rosary prayers follow a similar rhythm. Italian researchers studied this and were stunned. Reciting these prayers naturally slowed breathing to about 5.5 breaths per minute. That's a 5.5-second inhale, 5.5-second exhale. Here's the magic. Whenever people breathed at this rate, their bodies entered coherence. Heart rate, circulation, and nervous system synchronized, working at peak efficiency. Blood flow to the brain increased. This rhythm seems to be a universal key to body balance. It's meditation for people who don't meditate, prayer for the non-religious. This led Nestor to Konstantin Buteyko, a controversial Ukrainian doctor. In the 1950s, Buteyko noticed his sickest patients, especially those with asthma and high blood pressure, all breathed way too much. He believed overbreathing caused their illnesses, not just accompanied them. He developed techniques to train people to breathe less. This practice, sometimes called hypoventilation training, was famously used by legendary runner Emil Zatopek. He would hold his breath while running, training his body to be more efficient with less air. He won 3 gold medals in 1 Olympics and broke 18 world records. He did everything wrong, yet dominated because he'd mastered breathing less. This extends beyond athletics. Studies show Buteyko's methods can dramatically reduce asthma symptoms, often better than medication, simply by training the body to tolerate higher carbon dioxide and breathe less. Now we've covered the pathway, the nose and the pace, slow and less. But there's another forgotten piece, the exhale. Nestor introduces Karl Stoff, a choir conductor who, in the 1950s, worked with emphysema patients at a VA hospital. These men were literally suffocating, unable to get enough air. Nurses propped them up thinking it would help them inhale. But Stoff saw it differently. Their problem wasn't getting air in. It was getting stale air out. Their diaphragms, the primary breathing muscle, had become weak and stiff. He taught them to focus only on exhaling. He had them count aloud, gently pushing out every last bit of stale air. Within weeks, the results were miraculous. Men who couldn't walk across a room were climbing stairs. X-rays confirmed the impossible. They were physically changing their diaphragm structure and expanding lung capacity. Stoff hadn't cured their disease, but taught them to access healthy lung parts more efficiently. He called the diaphragm the second heart, because a full, powerful exhale helps pump blood through the body. easing heart burden. So far, these techniques are about breathing slow, less, and with full exhales. But Nestor's journey took him to one final, more extreme frontier: breathing more occasionally. Enter Wim Hof, the Iceman, famous for his seemingly superhuman cold tolerance. He's run a half-marathon barefoot in the Arctic and submerged himself in ice for nearly 2 hours. Scientists were baffled. Hof claimed his ability came from a breathing technique he developed, a modified version of ancient Tibetan Tummo, or inner fire meditation. The method involves rounds of intense, fast, deep breathing, followed by long breath holds. This is the opposite of breathing slow and less. It's controlled hyperventilation. For a few minutes, you intentionally stress your body. This triggers a hormone cascade: adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. It's like flipping your immune system switch. In a landmark study, scientists injected Hof's trained students with E. coli endotoxin that normally causes severe flu-like symptoms. The control group got sick, but the heavy breathing group fought off the infection. They showed almost no symptoms. They'd learned to consciously control their autonomic nervous system and immune response, something medical textbooks said was impossible. This kind of intense voluntary stress, Nestor explains, can be profoundly therapeutic. It's like a nervous system reset button. For people with autoimmune diseases like arthritis or Crohn's, where the immune system attacks the body, these techniques have shown remarkable results, drastically reducing inflammation. A similar technique is holotropic breathwork, developed by psychiatrist Stanislav Grof. It involves breathing heavily for up to 3 hours to induce altered consciousness. It pushes so much stress on the brain that it can trigger profound psychological breakthroughs, helping people confront trauma in ways years of talk therapy might not. These extreme techniques aren't for daily practice. They're power tools to be used consciously, to jolt the body and mind back into balance. Throughout this entire journey, from ancient skulls to modern labs, from gentle prayers to intense hyperventilation, one truth echoes: we have profound, untapped power within us. The simple, unconscious act of breathing, when done with conscious intention, becomes a lever to control our health, our minds, our very lives. The final perfect breath, as Nestor concludes, is a beautiful symphony of all these lost arts. It's breathing in through the nose for about 5.5 seconds, out through the nose for 5.5 seconds. It's breathing slow, breathing less, allowing a full, gentle exhale. It requires no technology, no pills, no special equipment. It's the simple, subtle rhythm of life itself, waiting inside us all along, just waiting for us to remember. As we wrap up this incredible journey through breath, I'm struck by one simple, powerful idea. The most profound changes in our lives often come not from adding something new, but from rediscovering something ancient and fundamental we've lost. For decades, health conversations have been dominated by diet and exercise. We count calories, track steps, buy expensive gym memberships, and that's all important. But what Nestor so brilliantly reveals is we've been missing the third pillar of health, and it might be the most important one. It's the 30 pounds of air we process every single day. What strikes me most is this book's beautiful blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. It's a detective story, where clues are scattered across millennia, in Sanskrit Yoga Sutras, in faded notes of a 19th-century artist living with Native American tribes, in SAT scans from a modern Stanford lab. And all these clues point to the same conclusion: we are the architects of our own breathing, and therefore, of our own health. The book is packed with complex science: the Bohr effect, chemoreceptors, polyvagal theory, but Nestor has a gift for making it all feel intuitive and deeply personal. He turns carbon dioxide tolerance into a story about courage and anxiety. He transforms facial anatomy into powerful commentary on modern civilization. For me, the most transformative lesson was the simplest, the profound difference between nose and mouth breathing. It's so basic, yet so few of us notice it. After reading this book, you see it everywhere. People on the subway, at the gym, sitting at desks, breathing through their mouths, completely unaware of the stress they're putting on their bodies. This book isn't just facts. It's an invitation to experiment with yourself. And that's where its true power lies. You don't need to believe anything mystical. You just need to try it. So here are a few simple things you can do right now to apply this wisdom. First, for the rest of today, just notice. Catch yourself breathing through your mouth and gently close it. Bring breath back to your nose. See how it feels. That's it. Just notice. Second, try the perfect breath. You don't need an app or timer. Find a quiet moment, and for 1 minute, breathe in for a slow count of 5 or 6. Breathe out for the same count. Feel air fill your belly. Let the exhale be complete and gentle. See if calm doesn't settle over you. Third, think about chewing. Next time you eat, choose something tougher, chewier. A crunchy apple instead of applesauce. A steak instead of a smoothie. Remind your jaw what it was designed to do. These aren't dramatic, life-altering changes. They're small, subtle shifts. But as Nestor shows us, over time, these small shifts can lead to profound transformations in health and happiness. The journey to better health isn't always about revolutionary pills or complicated workouts. Sometimes, it's just about remembering how to breathe. That was a summary of Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art, by James Nestor. We've touched on the most powerful ideas today, but I'll be honest. Listening to a summary is like looking at a picture of a wonderful meal. The real nourishment, the real flavor, comes when you experience it yourself. This book is packed with incredible stories, fascinating characters, and scientific details we couldn't cover. It's in those quiet moments, when one of Nestor's stories clicks with your own experience, that the real magic happens. This summary is your map, helping you see if the journey is right for you. If anything we've talked about sparked your curiosity, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning information. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you feel in your own body, from this day forward. Also, if you found this summary valuable, and it gave you a new perspective, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing, together.